My name is Mike Arnold, M-I-K-E-A-R-N-O-L-D. I wanted to go over a couple of preliminary things, just to answer some questions I've been getting constantly through email, and just to kind of save some time for everyone. I've had quite a few questions about Ammon's confinement while in custody, the tiny room he was in for 2 weeks, and the solitary confinement situation. So Ammon's been moved from solitary confinement to another section at the jail that will purportedly have more access to communication with his family and access to his attorneys. In the last 2 weeks, he's only allowed between 45 minutes to an hour at a time, and several times against jail policy, and likely accidentally, the attorney phone calls were interrupting with his ability in 45 minutes to an hour to clean up, shower, call his family, and then talk to me. And it's my understanding that that is jail policy, and they followed their jail policy, and so that was nothing out of the ordinary. Just the concern for public policy reasons is that really a good policy for 2 weeks for non-violent offender with accusations of no physical force and no criminal record? So that's just one concern for the community up here to consider. The next thing I want to address is Ammon's right to free speech while he's in jail. As you know, we received permission from the Multnomah County Jail to use our attorney telephone time and have the ability to record any statements he wishes to make and distribute it to the public. We've obviously advised him of his right to remain silent, and continues to be his goal to speak while in custody, to educate and continue on some of the attention that is brought to the matters that he was protesting. Of course, his words are by no way an endorsement by the jail or by our law firm. They're his words, and they're important to him and many people that believe in his words. There have been several commentators that have suggested that there shouldn't be a right to free speech, and someone in jail shouldn't be allowed to speak. And of course, you know, that's free speech too to say that, and that's okay, and that's a bad idea, and the marketplace of ideas should shout that idea down, because when you are in federal custody for a political protest or any federal crime that you're accused of, that should be the absolute time that you have the right to free speech. We're here today watching two First Amendment rights in action. I see before me several dozen people with cameras that are probably in the press and probably enjoying the right to free press in the First Amendment. At the same time, I'm enjoying the right to my free speech speaking to you now. Ammon tells us his goal is to continue to talk, and if you don't agree with his arguments, that's okay. He'll appreciate your feedback, but the answer is not to stop his speech. The answer is always, if you disagree with Ammon Bundy, is more speech, and let whatever idea prevails outcompete other ideas in the marketplace of ideas that is free speech. Next, I'd like to introduce some folks behind me. Lissa, Ammon Bundy's co-counsel, behind me to my left. We've given a list of names to you, but these are representatives from the coalition of Western states. Ammon Bundy made a call for action for legislators from across the country, particularly across the West, to come and show interest in these issues. And the folks here with me today have answered Ammon's call, and there were other folks that answered Ammon's call that had to go back to their given legislative assemblies. We had a little change of plan. They were coming to speak here yesterday, but abruptly we changed our itinerary and headed to Burns, and the other folks that couldn't join us from the legislatures, they went home because Portland was inconvenient for some of them, especially the folks that were from Idaho. They went from Burns back to Boise. So I'll introduce now Michele Fiore. She's present here from Clark County, Nevada. She represents in the Nevada State Assembly Ryan Bundy and Ammon and Ryan's father, Cliven Bundy. She's a well-known Republican. She's known to have an independent libertarian streak. She is well-known as an ardent supporter of the Second Amendment, but she's also pro-gay marriage and pro-legalization of marijuana. She's here today because she and her colleagues have answered Ammon's call to action, and I'll now give her the floor. This is a joint press conference. I just wanted to honor their sacrifice in making the trip, so I'm going to just turn it over to them and let Michele talk to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, you know, I made some notes while sitting in the courtroom, and I actually have a statement to read from Ammon Bundy, and the press will get a copy of that as well. But you know what I noticed? We're on federal property here, and before we start this, if you guys could just take a look over there at that guy with a gun. You see him? That statue? That speaks volumes to our Second Amendment. And I just want to make sure that people understand the Constitution, our freedom of speech, and our right to bear arms. And standing here on federal property and having that symbolic symbol is very telling. So before I get started with my comments, I would like to read a statement from Ammon. So I'm going to read the statement from Ammon since he is in jail and unable to be here now with you. These are Ammon's words. I would like to thank the hundreds of thousands of supporters across this great country who understand what is really going on. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for looking beyond the headlines and researching the truth. And most of all, thank you for your continual prayers. For several decades, federal agencies have been taking ranches, mines, properties, and forests all over the United States. They remove the rightful owners in the name of government and begin using the property for their own benefit. Through these actions, federal agencies have destroyed the economies of hundreds of counties, leaving the people with very little to survive on. Those who stand up to them, like the Hammonds and my father, Cliven Bundy, are prosecuted in federal court and thrown into prison. Most of these ranches, mines, properties were established well over 100 years ago, long before the U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service were even thought of. The Constitution of the United States restricts federal government from owning mass amounts of land inside an established state. It also does not give authority for federal agencies to purchase land inside the states without permission from state legislatures. Federal agencies refuse to recognize the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. They openly and blatantly break the law and put the people's liberty at risk by doing so. This is why we made a hard stand at the refuge. Our statement is this: the land belongs to the people, not government. Government officials must follow the laws people have placed upon them. Liberty by definition is freedom from arbitrary or despotic government control. Let us learn from the lessons of the past. We must get our government in control and back to benefiting the people. If we can do this, we may prosper as a nation once again and pass freedom on to our children. With respect and love, Ammon Bundy. So that was Ammon's statement. So I'm going to tell you guys why I'm here today. I made a promise. I made a promise to Sean and Sandy Anderson and David Fry and Jeff Panter that I wouldn't leave them alone as we go on to the next battleground. So their first stand was at the refuge, and our next battleground is in these courts. I'm also here today because an American, Ammon Bundy, and many others made a call to action. And these Americans are reaching out to their representatives asking for our help. I represent Americans. We are a nation of laws. We have to obey the laws, but the biggest key here is our government, our federal government, has to obey the laws as well. I truly believe that the refuge and the people that stood on the refuge are prisoners today because they exercise their political free speech. I haven't seen yet today any evidence of the federal government asking them to leave the refuge. No one has provided me with that evidence, written documentation whatsoever as of today before I stand before you. I ask our fellow Americans to unite and defend one another, to have compassion for each other and protect one another. Just as we stood up to the bullies in school, when the bullies picked on defenseless schoolmates of ours, we as Americans have to stand united and defend federal government, large government bullies as well. I'm going to close because I want to introduce some other legislators, but I'm going to close with a quote from Ammon Bundy, which I have personally endorsed this quote, and it's basically arm yourselves with ideas and arm yourselves with education, agree and disagree and argue, but be free. Thank you. I'm going to introduce Assemblywoman Shelley Shelton right now, and she has a few words, and I will answer some questions after Shelley introduces another legislature.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm Shelley Shelton. I am from Nevada also, in Las Vegas, and I want us all to just stop and think for a second. I want you to think for a second that there is a reason battle commanders make decisions based on what's happening on the front lines. Today, our ranchers, our loggers, they're the people on the front lines, and we need to listen to them. Our public lands are being taken, and this is not just something that's happening here in Oregon. This is happening throughout the United States, and this is a problem that needs to be addressed. We have tried this past session in Nevada, working with different people in different legislatures, to do this through the legislative process. And state ownership of these lands is not a radical concept. It has been disputed for decades, but now is the time to stop the bleeding of our resources and start using them at a state level and get the control of the lands back at state level. I'd also like to introduce Assemblyman John Moore, who is also from Nevada.
Thank you all folks for coming out. I'm Assemblyman John Moore from Las Vegas, Nevada, representing District 8. I'm here today, and I came up here because there, in my opinion, Mr. Finicum was murdered at the hands of the Oregon State Police and others, federal agents as well. This man was trying to surrender. It's quite obvious on the video that he was trying to surrender, but yet they chose violence and murder rather than to apprehend him. I've driven that route many times, and they had plenty of opportunity to apprehend him, if you will, for lack of a better term, or to question him anywhere along that route. But instead, they chose to employ an ambush. Now, I have 24 years in the military, special ops community. I'm a former Army Ranger. I know what an ambush is. And when I saw that video, that was clear-cut ambush. I've employed ambushes like that in foreign countries. I know what that's like. That man died at the hands of the Oregon State Police and federal agents, and he did not need to. That's why I'm here today, and that's why I came up here to try and prevent the further loss of life and harm to any other residents, whether they be in Oregon or Nevada or anywhere in this country. I will travel anywhere for that purpose. I think that should appall each and every one of us, that that kind of treatment can be done to an American citizen. As I stated earlier, I fought in combat. That is not what I fought in combat for, so that our own government can murder our own citizens. That deeply saddens me and troubles me. And I will do everything in my power to see that that does not happen to anyone else. Thank you. I'd like to turn it back over to Michelle.
Can we get the spelling of your name?
John, J-O-H-N-M-O-O-R-E.
So we want to thank you for being here, and we have a long road to go. I I think I'll be visiting Oregon to get through the process with these folks that are in prison here. I am available through email. Do you have any specific questions?
Sure, Ms. Fiore, do you advocate other armed actions such as happened in Harlan County?
Okay, so when you say armed actions, I just want to be crystal clear. Have you ever seen one of the people that were camping at the refuge point a firearm at anybody? Nope. Yes or no?
No, were they armed?
That's it.
They were armed. So
Doesn't matter.
There was a group of people that were armed.
Doesn't matter. There's a right to. Okay, so next question. Do you have a next? Do you have another question? I really want to reform our justice system. That's the big goal. You guys, I can't stress enough that we need justice reform. I am a conservative Republican from Las Vegas, Nevada, who sat on in both my terms as an assemblywoman on our Judiciary Committee. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or an Independent. We incarcerate too many people. The punishment is not fitting the penalty. The punishment, in Nevada we fight for laws that, you know, criminal infractions should be civil violations. It's incredible the road we've gone down. As a legislator that writes laws and the laws that go through the process of our LCB and our Legal Counsel Bureau, those written words get convoluted and changed and amended and then passed, and then the judge has to decipher what we did in session. And sometimes it doesn't work out for our family and friends. And it's not okay to imprison people, and you know, it's okay to imprison folks that have crimes against other people. But we're talking about a bunch of cowboys camping in the middle of nowhere, bearing their rights to their firearms. That's what we're talking about.
So you feel they did nothing wrong?
It's not that I feel that they did nothing wrong. What I'm saying is they came here to defend the Hammonds, and the Hammonds are in prison right now, and they came here to basically go against the bully, which is the federal government. This is not first incident of the Bureau of Land Management taking people's properties. This is a behaved pattern, and I urge every one of you to look up all of the cases of the ranchers that have lost their property, including that refuge. I urge each and every one of you to find out what that refuge once upon a time was. It was owned by Oregon ranchers, okay? And the Hammonds are the last ones there. Any other questions?
If I take the word armed out, do you advocate similar actions as happened?
I advocate free, peaceful assemble, and that is exactly what happened.
Yes.
Nobody pointed a gun at anybody, except the police.
If the land should go back to the people who originally owned it, should it be returned to the Paiute?
Okay.
Well,
Why don't we just all go back to England in that case?
Well, no, but
I mean, no, for real, really, you can't.
Well, I can make a statement about what Ammon has told me his feelings are about that. I might be inarticulate about this because I haven't done research and I just know what Ammon's expressed, but he has told me and others that he believes that the land should revert back to heirs of original homesteaders, or to the tribes, or to county or state governments. So I think with the refuge in mind, I can't really speak any further what his statement would be, but my interpretation is there would be nothing wrong with a Malheur State Wildlife Refuge under that analysis. That's all I know.
So he would like to figure out who the last owner was. If there's no trace of it, he would be fine with it going back to the tribe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that specifically because I don't know tribes versus state versus counties on how that works in this argument. But I know that they're wanting to research and get those answers, and I think he worked really hard researching this and talking to legislators about it in the past. And I think these guys are more informed than me. I'm kind of a Johnny-come-lately to this argument. I haven't I can't even honestly say that I've ever read Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. I'd like to think I've read the entire Constitution, but if I did, it was probably, you know, maybe in civics class. So it's a steep learning curve about what these arguments are and what they mean, and there's smarter people out there than I that have been debating this for years. So I'll just kind of leave it to these folks.
Ms. Fiore, tell us about your decision to go to the refuge, the last 4 people there to leave. What made you decide to do that?
You know, that wasn't on the agenda Wednesday when our flight was landing. I was landing in Portland, and Mike Arnold was picking me up so we can talk about who's incarcerated, who's their attorneys, what are the charges, you know, and move forward with what's happening. But as the aircraft was hitting the tarmac, my phone, you know when you get into that zone and you can turn your phone on, was blowing up with one of our representatives from COWS, which was Matt Shea, with a phone number. Mike Arnold was calling me repeatedly, and so you guys have all been on airplanes, and they have, it was packed. I was in the last row, and so I answer the phone, and it's Mike Arnold, and he says, call the refuge right now, call the refuge, they're asking for you. There was some sort of online direct communication that was being aired, and you know, I'm going to tell you something about that. David Fry, who's very smart, and Gavin, who put this together, the federal government literally shut down all communications for those who are at the refuge, so they could not call out for help. But at least they thought they shut it down. But you know, we got those computer guys, those computer whizzes that can figure out hot spots and this spots and I don't know. And so David Fry, technical little whiz that he was, and another man figured out how to get communication out. And what happened was the FBI was moving in onto the refuge, and they were feeding live on a live stream, and they were basically demanding to speak to Assemblywoman Michele Fiore. And at that time, as they were doing this, he was listening, and he actually alerted the FBI the day before I was coming in and said, Assemblywoman Michele Fiore is coming to Oregon. She will be in Portland. Do you need her assistance? And they basically told him to fly a kite, and I think kind of not those words, but no. And so as I'm landing, my phone's blowing up. Mike Arnold is on the phone with the FBI. I got the phone number from Matt Shea, who's a Washington rep, on how to call into this phone number, and that phone number directly connected me to the refuge and how they were communicating. And so that's how I got involved.
How do you feel about your role in helping make that safe?
You know, there was many people that played a role. I have to tell you, the role was as soon as I got off the plane with a dying battery, and Mike was looking for me. Mike got to me. We got in finally when we got to his truck, Mike was on the phone with the FBI. I was on the phone with Sean and Sandy and David and Jeff, and we were going back and forth as to what they want. And then he would tell the FBI what they want, and then the FBI would tell Mike, we can do this or we can do that, and then I would relay that.
I'm just curious how, in hindsight, it feels to have been a
You know what? I'm gonna bring my mom and grandma card out right now because I am a mom, and it shows.
We heard it.
We heard it. And I'm really glad that they're safe. And I have to also give kudos to the FBI agents that were out there, because no one got hurt, no one got scratched. They allowed Reverend Franklin Graham and I to greet them and hug them and let them know that we were with them to this next battleground, which is our court service. And David Fry is 27. And I have a 26-year-old daughter. So I ask all of you, no matter what party you're with, is to never forget compassion and forgiveness to your fellow American. And never, ever deny someone when they reach out to you and ask you for help. So I'm very, very happy we are here today to talk about the lives that are still alive, and I will continue to free our people, because I do not think it's okay for Americans to be imprisoned or be prisoners for their political free speech, and that's why I'm here.
How about the fact that we've got a lot of
Yeah, how about that fact?
Oregonian lawmakers? Do you consider yourself outsiders, and what do you say to those who feel you are?
You know what I say to those who would ever call another American an outsider? I'm an American, and if you call me from anywhere, I don't care if you call me from Syria, and if you're an American that needs help, Americans need to go and get their fellow Americans. That's it. Any other questions?
You previously told reporters that the 4 remaining occupants weren't part of the real movement and tried to distance them from Ammon Bundy.
I can't hear you.
You had previously, 3 weeks ago, called reporters trying to distance these remaining 4 occupants from Ammon Bundy, saying they weren't part of the real movement. So why embrace them now? What changed?
I have to totally disregard that false statement. I don't know where you're from or what you're trying to say, but those 4 are safe. They're on the refuge. So is there another question?
You're a hero, Michelle. We love you.
I love you too.
Have you spoken to
I
Gary?
love you guys very much.
We're gonna go see Ammon.
Thank you.